I will adjudicate you guilty and sentence you to life in prison without parole.
I agree with the family. I hope you die in prison as well.
Teenagers today are lively, smart, and eager to be independent. That's great, but there are some downsides too. Sometimes they can pick up some bad habits or get into risky behavior. Some end up with long prison sentences and might have a chance at parole, while others aren't so lucky. Let's look at some of the most unforgettable reactions from teenagers at their own sentencing. Here is Shawndell Jackson, who is facing charges of murdering a university student, Nathan Potter, in Milwaukee. It was claimed that Jackson, who was 18 years at the time of the incident, alongside his friend, Derek Thomas, were on a hunt for a victim. It was gathered that both of them met on July 5, 2009, to plan how they were going to start robbing. So, on July 6, 2009, a UWM student was walking into his River West apartment 1 mile west of campus and was robbed at gunpoint. Shawndell Jackson and his accomplice, Derek Thomas, committed the robbery, but Nathan Potter had no money, and Thomas told police Jackson shot Potter because he didn't have any money. After the murder, the report said that Jackson fled to Mississippi and his uncle told the cops about his whereabouts.
Because you just can't take nobody's life. You know, that's just wrong.
The two were eventually caught and arrested in the following month. When Jackson would show up in court, he was seen making funny smirks towards the family of Nathan Potter and saying some abusive words towards them, and apparently being unserious about the situation. And when Jackson was being led out of the courtroom before his prosecution, he was seen smiling at the family. A few moments before the sentencing, Jackson's mother was allowed to speak.
When I saw it on the news, I even cried. I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine what that mother is going through. I never had a clue that my child had anything to do with it. My son is not a monster. He is not a monster.
But Jackson's attitude in court would make most people believe he is a monster. The victim's father was also granted opportunity to talk before the court, where he read this.
It can be said to bring back our Nathan. But your sentence can ensure that Shawndell does not have the opportunity as a free man to inflict pain like this again.
And yes, Jackson was granted permission to speak before the court too, and here's what he's got to say.
I apologize for my behaviors. Please don't take my life from me.
Jackson's attorney also made a last-minute attempt to plead to the court on behalf of his client to consider his plea. However, the judge, Rebecca Dallett, charged Jackson with felony murder and announced life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and the rest was a scene. This next teenager we are going to talk about planned her crime too, but hers is on another level of planning. Meet Mackenzie Shirilla, a teenager from Ohio who deliberately crashed her car into a brick building, resulting in the deaths of her 20-year-old boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and his 19-year-old friend, Davian Flanagan. According to reports, Shirilla, who was 17 at the time, had threatened Russo with crashing the car during an argument just before the incident. This tragic event took place early on July 31st, 2022, in the Cleveland suburb of Strongsville, as reported by The Independent. Driving at 100 mph, Shirilla drove at high speed down a dead-end street in Strongsville, ultimately crashing the car into a brick wall. The vehicle was heavily damaged, with all airbags deployed. Dominic Russo and Davian Flanagan were declared dead at the scene, while Mackenzie Shirilla was found unconscious in the car and taken to a hospital. Mackenzie's mother had something to say before the court. She pleaded with the judge to show her daughter some mercy by reducing the weight of the sentencing.
I just want to say to the families that I'm broken, sad, and lost, and my heart hurts for everyone. Your Honor, this was a terrible, tragic nightmare accident to have happened that she has no memory of, and she will never emotionally or physically recover from it.
Her mum went on to narrate further events on the day of the incident. After Mackenzie's mum had spoken, now was the time for Mackenzie to say something to the court.
The families of Dom and Davia, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davian. We were all friends, and Dom was my soulmate. I wish I could take all your pain away, and I'm so sorry.
The Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office stated that the car had no mechanical issues that could have caused the crash. Mackenzie Shirilla had traces of psilocybin mushrooms in her system. The investigation concluded the murder was planned, as Shirilla chose to drive at 5:30 a.m. when there were few potential witnesses on a road she rarely used, but had driven on once before. The court also observed Shirilla showed no remorse after the crash, and the judge then delivered her sentence.
So she's sentenced on count 2, the murder of Davion Flanagan, 15 years to life. She's sentenced on count 1, the murder of Dominic Russo, 15 years to life, to be served concurrent to each other, with credit for time served.
Mackenzie's reactions while learning of her fate might make a lot of people bear some sympathy for her. This next one, let's just say he's the real-life version of Michael Myers. This is Aiden Fucci, who was 14 at the time, was arrested and charged with first-degree murder for the death of Tristan Bailey. Tristan, who was 13, was found dead on Mother's Day, May 9th, 2021, just hours after her family reported her missing. She had been brutally stabbed and slashed multiple times. On the night Tristan Bailey died, a friend reported that Aiden Fucci asked for her number, according to police. He persuaded her to leave home and meet at a friend's house. Video footage shows 2 people, believed to be Fucci and Bailey, walking east on Saddlestone Drive near the retention pond where her body was later discovered. About an hour and 45 minutes later, the same video appears to show Fucci returning alone, carrying his shoes. Additionally, Fucci's mother, Crystal Smith, was seen on the footage attempting to cover up evidence. In interviews with investigators, Aiden Fucci's girlfriend revealed that he often carried a knife and talked about killing people, including her. He would come up from behind her and pretend to slit her throat. However, she and other friends never took these threats seriously. Additionally, before Fucci was arrested, he made a video on Snapchat making light of what had happened.
We're having fun in a f***ing cop car.
Yep. Tristan.
What's up, guys?
Yep.
Tristan, if you f***ing walk out the damn...
When you see this in a month.
At this point, when Fucci and his friend Trey made the video, they were being detained by law enforcement. Aiden Fucci was initially arrested on a charge of second-degree murder in Tristan Bailey's death. However, the state attorney's office for the 7th Circuit later upgraded the charge to first-degree premeditated murder due to the brutality of the crime. Fucci was charged as an adult, and on Friday, March 24th, Judge R. Lee Smith sentenced him to life in prison.
Mr. Fucci, if you and your attorneys would please rise. Counsel, is there any legal reason why this court cannot impose sentence at this time?
No, sir.
Mr. Fucci, having entered a plea of guilty to the crime of first-degree murder, I adjudicate you guilty of the premeditated first-degree murder of Tristan Bailey. I sentence you to life in prison. Because of your age, you are eligible for review of the sentence in 25 years. I order the Department of Corrections to notify you when you are eligible to apply for your review hearing.
And here's Aiden apologizing in court. Well, looks like the slasher's wings have been clipped by the law. If you think Aiden got what he deserved, I think you should say the same for these two who thought low grades meant dishing out a nasty beating. Willard Miller pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in April for his role in the November 2nd, 2021 killing of Nohema Graba, a Spanish teacher. Miller and his co-defendant, Jeremy Goodale, attacked Ms. Graba, 66, after she gave Miller a lower grade on his work. Both Miller and Goodale were 16 at the time of the murder and were charged as adults. Miller was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole only after serving at least 35 years. The crucial details of the murder have been known for months. Miller, angered by his grade, enlisted Goodale's help to plan the killing of Nohema Graba. On November 2nd, 2021, they surprised Graba during her usual evening walk in Fairfield's Chautauqua Park. Goodale gave the cops details of how they stalked their teacher.
We watched her walk the trail once around and we just left. Okay. And where are you watching her from on the trail itself? You're on the trail? Are you 50 yards behind her? Are you walking her bikes along the trail? Okay, like a distance. So she ever look back and do like that, anything of that nature? So as far as you can tell, you guys never made eye contact. She's not up here. I can't remember if it was the day of or if it had been on Monday, but we did end up bumping into her and saying hi.
And then eventually beating her to death with a baseball bat.
He hit her a couple more times and then he dragged her off, pretty sure to death.
Snapchat messages between the two. Defendants showed how they had carefully carried out this ingenious act. When it was time for him to address the court, Miller apologized, saying Paul Graber, Nahima's husband, sadly passed away before he could see the killers of his wife being sentenced for their crimes. Goodale, Miller's co-defendant, whose trial and sentencing was done a later time, received a 25 years jail term. But before that, he remorsefully apologized for his past actions. The judge considered Goodale's remorse to be a better one than his co-defendant Miller. Here's what the judge had to say. Although you were older than Mr. Miller, it's clear to me that you were not more mature than him, and Mr. Miller was far more sinister in his planning. Unlike your co-defendant, it's clear to me you have regretted your role in Ms. Graber's murder. Their reactions were different during court proceedings and during their sentencing. Miller looked undaunted, and Goodale wore a sorry face. High school drama can be brutal, but for 16-year-old Skylar Neese, it proved deadly. This is Rachel Shoaf and Sheila Eddy, who appeared in court for killing their friend when they were both 16 years. Back in July 2012, a teenage honor roll student snuck out of her family's apartment in the early morning. Tragically, she was brutally stabbed in the back by her two best friends, Sheila Eddy and Rachel Shoaf. After the attack, they left her body in the woods, covered with branches, and went back to their daily lives. They even posted about missing their friend on social media. During the search for the missing girl, Shoaf went to church camp, and Eddy helped the girl's parents hand out flyers, all while knowing what had really happened. It wasn't until January 2013 that investigators uncovered the teen's involvement. That's when Shoaf gave a chilling motive for the crime. When asked why they killed their friend, Skylar, Rachel said they just didn't like her.
Sheila Eddy and Rachel Shoaf carried out that plan. Together they stabbed and killed Skylar.
Report claimed that Skylar was stabbed more than 50 times. Eddy pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison on Jan Satans 24, 2014. Shoaf got a 30-year sentence in exchange for her cooperation with the authorities. She could be seen shaking her head as her sentence was read out to her. I wonder if she thought shaking her head would somehow change her verdict. Next stop is Jennifer Mee, a young woman from Florida with uncontrollable hiccups.
I've been to neurologists, pediatricians, cardiologists to get MRIs, CAT scans, blood work, everything. And nothing. Nothing.
Even after her hiccups stopped, she still got media attention. However, she later became entangled in a man's death. Mee was 19 when she was arrested in October 2010. Police said she met Shannon Griffin on a social networking site, then lured him to a vacant home days later, where she and her other friends, Rayford and Newton, robbed him of his money and killed him. All three suspects were arrested hours after Griffin's body was found, and all three were charged with first-degree murder. Even Mee, although police indicated she didn't pull the trigger. Mee, Rayford and Newton had all been living together, according to police. Jennifer Mee, who was 22 years old at the time her sentencing was being read to her, wept after her life sentence verdict, sometimes holding her head in her hands. She sobbed some more as she was led out of the room for a jail cell. Well, Jennifer may have quietly walked to jail, but this next guy wasn't about to walk off to jail without putting up a fight. This is Luis Reyes, who pleaded guilty for the crime of rape and robbery. The situation arose when the teenagers accessed an elderly woman's home via their friend Sean Mouse. Mouse, then 16, had built the woman's trust by helping her with chores, but was actually stealing from her. Notably, Mouse was absent the night the woman was attacked. Carlos Fernandez, who was 14, and Luis Reyes, who was 15, at the time of the incident, went to this 89-year-old woman's apartment in the night with their 20-year-old friend. They snuck in through the back door. Once inside, they started searching the rooms for pills and money. They were planning to steal these things and leave, but then the woman woke up and caught them. As for the worst part of the crime, the woman was beaten and raped with a sharp object while she screamed in pain. Reyes and Fernandez claimed they weren't involved. They said they didn't see it happen at all. But when they were in court, something surprising happened. The boys' behaviors were very different from when they were arrested by the police. They were making jokes, saying things like they were juveniles and wouldn't be getting severe punishment. The officer who arrested them appeared to have put them on record. The prosecutor asked that they should be given life sentences, but a Supreme Court ruling made this impossible. During the court hearings, the boys mostly kept their eyes on the floor, hardly looking up. When the judge gave his decision, Reyes was sentenced to 30 years in prison, plus 10 years of probation. After hearing this, Reyes erupted in anger. He tried to resist the bailiffs who were taking him away, and when they finally did, he shouted loudly. Brandon Spencer was convicted of attempted murder. Brandon fired a gun outside a party organized by the Black Student Assembly. He hurt 4 people, and he was found guilty of trying to kill them. The court said Brandon had ties with a gang, and they even used messages from his phone as proof. They told the judge that Brandon was trying to get back at someone when he shot at a guy named Gino Hall. Gino, who used to play football for Crenshaw High, claimed he was just talking to his girlfriend when he got shot. He didn't know why it happened or who did it. Brandon and Gino had a long argument online because they were in rival gangs. This made things worse between them, and it ended in a brutal gunfire that night at USC. Prosecutors told the jury that Spencer was a known member of a gang and had been shot in the stomach in August 2011 by someone from a rival gang, but he refuted their claims. During his trial, Brandon was actually in tears.
I'm not a bad person, but I made mistakes. But I'm not just some gangbanger that you tried to portray me as.
He also apologized for what happened.
Sorry for what happened, Your Honor, but I can't do life in prison.
But when the judge said he'd be locked up for at least 40 years, Brandon broke down and banged his head on the desk in court. He was really upset and cried while the sheriffs had to calm him down. It's a harsh reality check. One moment can change everything, and for Brandon, it just did. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories.